So when I first picked up these two discs, the Proxy and the Watt, I thought that these would be pretty similar, or if not like almost identical discs. They're both slow, they both have like a little bit of turn and a touch of fade, so I thought they'd both fit into that like finesse upshot type putter. So when I brought them out to compare them, I thought I wouldn't find much difference between them at all, but I was sorely mistaken. These are two very different putters. Like when you take a look at the profiles of them, you can kind of see what the differences are. The Watt, for example, it very much looks like and is reminiscent of the Glitch, but just something that's a little bit faster and more of like a stereotypical putter would be. Then when you look at the Proxy, MVP actually says that this is in the family of the Envy. Now what that means, I'm not 100% sure, but I think that might mean that it shares the same top. Because if you look at them side by side, which I brought an Eclipse Envy, they look very similar until you get to the bottom portion of the rim here. The bottom of the Envy is just a little bit more concaved, when the Proxy, it might still be a touch concaved on the bottom, but it's very, very minimal. You can also tell the difference in the diameter of the discs. So the Watt, because it's modeled after the Glitch, it's a little bit wider to give it a little bit more glide. And because of that, like it feels a little more flimsy, kind of like a Glitch. And I know it's not because of the weight, because both the Watt and the Proxy that I'm throwing are both 172 grams. So it's because the Watt is a touch wider in diameter than the Proxy. The Proxy has that like normal diameter to putters, kind of like the Envy, that's made more for like speed rather than for glide. And the differences between like the Glitch and the Envy is massive. But those differences also kind of explain the difference between the Watt and the Proxy. But first, give me a minute to talk about this video's sponsor, Aura. Tell me, does your call list look like this? Just a ton of like spam callers? Well, that's mainly due to data brokers. They're basically people who find information about people and they take that information and they sell it to buyers. Well, if you didn't know, you can opt out of those data brokers selling your information, and they legally have to take you off of their list. The only problem is you don't really know which data brokers have your information, and it's very difficult to opt out. Well, that's where Aura comes into play. They will go out and find all the data brokers that have your information, and they will go in and send opt-out requests for you. And when I did a search for them, they found over 30 different data brokers with my information. But that's not the only thing Aura does. They have a ton of different just online security features, just all the different things you need to protect yourself online, which is a huge deal nowadays. So if you want to check it out, I have a link in the description. It is aura.com/Apollo, or if you're watching on a TV, there's a link on screen with a QR code. If you follow that link, you'll get a 14-day free trial to give Aura a try and just see how many data brokers have your information. So check out the link in the description to try it out yourself, and thank you, Aura, for sponsoring this video. So like I said before, these are very different discs when you throw them. They are similar in the sense that they do both have a little bit of a turn and they both have a little bit of a fade. So I don't think these discs are different enough to bag both of them. I think they fit completely different games. Because the Proxy, for example, because it has that little bit more speed and the smaller diameter and the less glide, it's just more of like a driving type of putter. So it wants to be thrown with a little bit more power on a like more direct line to wherever your target is, and you can just feel it in your hand. It wants to be like thrown faster than the Watt. When you hold the Watt, it feels like a kind of lofty type of putter. Yes, you can drive it off the tee, and this actually handles a drive really, really well. But I think where this excels at, where the Proxy doesn't, is the like touchy approach shots. Because it has that more glide, and I think this turns a little bit more than the Proxy. Because of those things, it's a very touchy and finesse disc. You can finesse it on a lot of different lines, and you can just give it a little bit of a pop out of your hand, and it goes a pretty long ways, and it goes there effortlessly. When the Proxy, like it doesn't fly effortlessly. You have to put something behind it, but when you do, it can go pretty good. And that's very similar to the Envy. The Envy isn't like a effortless, glidey, touchy disc. It wants to be thrown. And the Envy is perfect for those kind of people who just want to rip a disc off of the tee or have just a lower, faster approach game and not as much of a touchy finesse game. Now the Proxy is a little more touchy and finesse than the Envy. That's why Simon throws this and not the Envy in his bag, because he's more of a finesse type of player. But the Watt is definitely for those very touchy finesse shots. Now, when it comes to my bag and my game, it's pretty difficult to decide between these, because if you would ask, I would say that my game tends more towards the finesse, touchy type of discs that kind of fits more my game and my style. So like I played like a 1-disc round with each of these discs yesterday on this short putter course, which that round will be posted on my Patreon for those interested. But in that round, I just found the Watt a lot easier to like hit my lines and to throw, mainly because it's very easy for me to power down and have those kind of like fluffy, lofty type approach shots. When the Proxy, I would try to do that and it just wouldn't work because this is not really a lofty, touchy kind of putter. Now that could be because this is an Eclipse Proxy. It's a little bit more stable, I would guess, than a normal one. I haven't thrown one. And so I was kind of throwing this, expecting it to turn kind of like this Watt, but it just didn't. But when I brought these out today it's very windy out. And because of that, I was just significantly more comfortable and more confident throwing the Proxy. Now, part of that is probably because in this Eclipse plastic, it's a little bit more stable, so it has less turn than the Watt. But I think the bigger reason is because it's slightly faster and it has that slightly less glide. Because when you throw in a ton of glide like the Watt has, the more glide a disc has, the more susceptible it is to the wind, because it's just in the air longer and it's made to trap air underneath the disc. So when it's windy, it just takes control of it more. So it makes me really torn, because when there's no wind at all, I absolutely love the Watt. It is amazing. It fits my game perfectly. And I was actually pretty shocked because I was under the impression that the Proxy was gonna take it for me and the Proxy was gonna be just my disc. But the Watt really surprised me, fit my game really well. But I live in Kansas City, so the number of rounds that I'm gonna get with the Watt with no wind is practically nothing. There's almost always wind here in Kansas City. So in that sense, the Proxy might be better in most situations for me. But I don't know, the Watt is money. But you really need to be that more finesse, touchy kind of player for it. But also, if you're not great at finesse shots, then I would almost suggest getting a Watt and learning that, because almost anyone needs finesse, in my opinion. It'll help you significantly. But I'll have links in the description where you can pick these up. These are both at apollodiscgolf.com. I recently got a restock of MVP and Axiom discs. And I also added pre-orders for the Gyropalooza boxes. So if you're interested in that, I'll have the store right here. But thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.